In 2001, Renault teamed up with the dying French company Matra to create something that nobody had ever seen before, a three-door minivan. This was called the Renault Aventime, and it was weird. It had 5 seats rather than the usual 7, and it was marketed as a Grand Tourer rather than your average family MPV. It was still based on the Renault Espace. However, as you can see, it has some of the largest doors I have ever seen. In fact, they weigh 125 pounds. Now, these are increasing in value and they are available officially for import. You can have a 3-litre V6 with 210 horsepower or a 2-litre turbocharged inline 4 with 180 horsepower. Your choice, but either way, you get a pretty cool family car. Next up is a car that Americans have been patiently waiting for, the EP3 Honda Civic Type R. This thing is one of the best hot hatches of the 2000s. In fact, it was introduced in 2001, everyone absolutely loved it. We never got the original Type R either, so don't feel left out. However, this one we did get, and it was brilliant. 197 horsepower from its K20 naturally aspirated 2-litre engine with VTEC that's very tunable. However, in recent years these good examples have been very tricky to find. A lot of the examples that you might find are either heavily modified or incredibly high mileage. However, it is a Honda, so if you keep it stock and use it as a daily, then maybe it will be reliable and last a long time. If you want an even better hot hatch, then I suggest this, the mid-engined Renault Clio V6, a 2-seater supercar from Renault. This has the 3-litre V6 that was used in several other big French cars. It produces 230 horsepower and will get this car to a top speed of over 150 miles an hour. Now, it looks kind of like a normal Clio, only there are no back seats and there isn't much of a boot either. However, you do end up with something pretty cool and slightly dangerous. If that Civic Type R wasn't really your speed, may I suggest this, the Integra Type R, the DC5 Integra Type R. This is a Japanese legend that was once again illegal in the US. However, you can now import this car from Japan or from Europe. This thing was brilliant back in its day and still is. It can reach the 60 in less than 6.5 seconds, has 212 horsepower from its K20 engine, and it's tunable. It looks cool too, with a large Supra-style wing. Handling, once again, is brilliant. This was still one of the best handling front-wheel drive cars ever produced. And you can now import the car from Fast and Furious, the second movie, the Evo 7. This was a Mitsubishi Evo that was denied from the US. Now, considering it is winter, you're going to want something all-wheel drive. Now, you might want to get one of these because no one else has an Evo 7. Sure, people have Evo 6s and Evo 8s, no one's got an Evo 7. This is somewhat unique, even though it looks very similar to the Evos 8 and 9. You still get the same engine that's been featured in every single Evo since the original, and you also get a 6-speed manual transmission and a wheel drive. Next is one of the strangest cars I think I've ever seen, the Lancia Thesis. This was Lancia's full-size car based on the Alfa Romeo 166, which is a car that I showed you last year. Now, this one is very, very different. Apart from its really strange design, this thing was incredibly well equipped for 2001, featuring stuff like a rear blind, and it even had a touchscreen in 2001, which is pretty groundbreaking stuff, especially for a European car. It's also got fully adjustable seats and a rather nice cabin which can be equipped with a 6-speed manual. In terms of engines, you can get a number of different engines. You can get a diesel, you can also get a 3.2 litre V6, which turns this into a 150 mile an hour highway cruiser, and also the turbocharged 5-cylinder from the Fiat Coupe. And next, we have another Italian car, the Fiat Stilo Abarth. Now, no one really knew what Abarth was doing in the 90s and the early 2000s. They were just existing. They had been officially absorbed by Fiat and were tuning their cars in-house. However, this was one of their lesser known creations. It again featured a 2.4 litre 5-cylinder, which was the naturally aspirated version of the Fiat Coupe's engine. It produced 170 brake horsepower in Abarth form and sounded amazing. As for the looks, it looks serious, but being a Fiat from the early 2000s, it's gonna have some pretty terrible build quality, so if you don't like shopping for parts overseas, then you're in a bit of trouble. Germany, we have one of the craziest Volkswagen Beetles ever produced. This is the Beetle RSI. It features the 3.2 litre VR6 that was placed in the Volkswagen Golf R32. This was the test bed. It has 240 horsepower and yet still retains that Lou Beetle design, plus some interesting aero, including a roof spoiler, and if that wasn't enough, a boot spoiler. You also get 4-wheel drive and a 6-speed manual, plus some Audi TT bits to make the interior a bit more spicy. And if that wasn't enough, you get some very orange seats, which could look good. However, if you want something exclusive, this might be the car for you, as only 250 of these were ever produced. And last but not least, we have one of the best dailies ever, the Alfa Romeo 156 GTA. This thing is awesome. 250 horsepower, 3.2 V6, naturally aspirated. It is a Busso engine, pretty cool car. I really like these things a lot. I think that if you wanted to get a saloon that was different to an M3, then this is brilliant. You can even get it in 4-wheel drive, which is pretty useful for this time of year. I like these cars, I think they look stunning, and if you want a super saloon that's a bit more unique, then this might just be the perfect car for you. So that is my list of 9 cars that you can import to the US in 2026. Now, if you want to go and search for these cars, I suggest you look for places with drier climates, namely Spain, southern France, the Balkans and Italy. They also have a larger supply of old cars, so you're much more likely to find the car that you're looking for. So if you want more advice like this, please subscribe.